A Navy SEAL and his loyal K9 were patrolling the frozen outskirts of Everpine when the dog suddenly halted, ears forward, breath visible in the icy air. Through the howl of the blizzard came a sound no soldier could ignore. A baby's faint cry. Imagine this. A tiny life hanging by a thread in a deadly storm. What would you do? Beneath a snow-covered bench lay a woman clutching her infant, their bodies trembling on the edge of silence. That night, duty became compassion and survival became love. What the SEAL and his K9 did next would melt the coldest hearts and prove that sometimes the bravest rescues happen far from the battlefield. But wait, could one act of kindness unravel a dark secret that changes everything? Keep listening to find out. Snow fell like shattered glass from the heavens, coating the small mountain town of Everpine in a cruel, endless white. The storm howled through the pine trees, bending them like wounded soldiers, their frozen limbs groaning in protest. Logan Pierce guided his old Ford pickup along the deserted lakeside road, headlights slicing through the storm. Once a Navy SEAL, now a volunteer for the Civilian Security Patrol Unit, he had traded the roar of battle for the silence of snowfall. 35 years old, with close-cropped brown hair and a square jaw marked by a thin scar near his cheekbone, Logan carried the look of a man who had seen too much and spoken too little. His beard was trimmed short, streaked with early gray, and his blue eyes, cold, steady, unblinking, seemed to hold the weight of every night he had spent waiting for dawn in a war zone that never really ended inside him. Beside him, in the passenger seat, sat Echo, a 4-year-old German shepherd with black and tan fur and intelligent amber eyes that missed nothing. Once trained as a military working dog, Echo had served alongside Logan in search and rescue missions across Afghanistan. He moved with the alert grace of a predator, but his gaze, when it fell on Logan, was gentle, loyal, and endlessly patient. The wipers squealed against the windshield, struggling against the thick snow. The town radio crackled. Visibility below 10 meters. Patrol units may return to base. Logan reached over, turned the radio off, and muttered to Echo, "One last loop, then we head home." Home? The word meant little now. His cabin on Pine Hill was quiet. Too quiet, since Sarah, his wife, had died 3 winters ago in a car accident while he was deployed overseas. She had been slender and soft-spoken, with chestnut hair and kind green eyes that once filled the small kitchen with laughter. That laughter had died long before the storm, and in its place lived a guilt that Logan never managed to bury. Echo's ears perked, his body stiffened, nose pressed against the fogged window. Then came the sound, faint, almost swallowed by the wind. A whimper. Logan slowed the truck. "What is it, boy?" Echo barked once, sharp and urgent, then leapt toward the passenger door. Logan's pulse quickened. He parked, grabbed his flashlight, and stepped into the storm. The cold bit his skin through the thick tactical jacket, but he pushed on, following Echo's tracks in the snow. Then he saw it. A shape, no, two, huddled on a park bench, half buried under drifts of snow. The beam of his flashlight revealed a young woman curled forward, her arms wrapped desperately around a tiny bundle pressed to her chest. "Ma'am!" Logan shouted, kneeling beside her. The woman didn't move. Her hair, dark, tangled, and crusted with ice, framed a face ghostly pale against the night. Her lips were blue, her eyelashes frozen. He brushed the snow from her shoulders and found the faint rise and fall of breath. Still alive, the baby whimpered, just a thread of sound, but it pierced the storm like a prayer. Logan's chest tightened. "Hey there, little one," he murmured. "Hang on." He unclasped his jacket and pulled out the thermal rescue blanket from his kit. The woman's hands were stiff. He gently pried them open to wrap the baby. Tiny, red-faced, no more than a few months old. The child's eyes fluttered weakly. Logan felt the pulse beneath his fingers, fragile, but steady. Echo circled close, pressing his warm body against the woman's legs to share heat. Steam rose from the dog's fur as the snow melted around him. Logan glanced at him. "Good boy. Stay with her." With slow precision born from years of combat triage, Logan checked the woman's vitals again. Her pulse was faint but present. He scooped both mother and child into his arms, his muscles straining against the weight and the storm. The woman's head fell against his shoulder. Strands of wet hair brushed his cheek. Her scent, cold air, rain, and something faintly sweet, hit him with a sudden memory of Sarah standing on the porch, waving as he left for deployment. For a heartbeat, the past and present blurred. He blinked hard, clutching the woman tighter. "Not this time," he whispered. "I won't lose them, too." He hurried back to the truck, snow blinding his path, boots crunching through the drifts. Echo ran ahead, barking into the wind, clearing the way. The headlights glowed faintly through the curtain of white, a beacon of hope in a night that had forgotten mercy. Logan laid the woman across the back seat, covered her with his thick parka, and secured the baby against her chest. Echo jumped in beside them, curling up to keep the child warm, his fur trembling but steady. As Logan started the engine, the truck groaned but roared to life. He turned onto the narrow mountain road toward Pine Hill, wipers struggling against the storm. The world outside was nothing but white chaos, but inside the truck there was the sound of a heartbeat. Tiny, persistent, alive. Logan glanced into the rear-view mirror. The woman stirred faintly, her fingers twitching. "You're safe now," he said softly. "I've got you." The baby made a soft whimpering sigh. Echo lifted his head and nudged the little one with his nose as if promising, "We're not leaving." The road curved upward, snow swallowing the tire tracks behind them. As the truck disappeared into the storm, a gust of wind lifted something from the bench they had left behind. An old crumpled paper tumbling through the night. Under the weak glow of a street lamp, the paper caught against a fence post, revealing faded letters beneath the frost. Shelter of hope. The storm did not pass that night. By morning, the world beyond Logan's cabin had vanished beneath white silence. No road, no sky, just snow pressing against the windows like a living thing. The wind howled through the chimney, but inside firelight flickered across wood walls lined with old Navy photographs and medals dulled by time. Maya Quinn lay on the couch wrapped in wool blankets. Her skin, once gray from frostbite, now showed faint color. She was in her mid-20s, slight and fragile, with dark hair falling messily across her cheeks and skin so pale it almost caught the glow of the fire. Her lips trembled even in sleep, as if her body still remembered the cold that nearly took her. Logan sat at the table, rolling a tin cup between calloused hands. He hadn't shaved. A rough stubble shadowed his jaw. The quiet felt heavier than combat silence. There, at least he had orders. Here, he only had questions. Echo lay by the couch, head resting near the baby's basket. The dog's ears twitched whenever Noah whimpered, his breath forming small clouds that shimmered in the heat of the fire. 9 months old, the boy was tiny, wrapped in a blue blanket from Logan's gearbox. When he slept, his fists clenched as if holding on to some invisible promise. Maya stirred, her lashes fluttered before she blinked awake. The firelight painted her eyes a deep hazel, alert yet distant, like someone waking from a nightmare that hadn't really ended. She tried to sit up. Pain crossed her face. "Easy," Logan said quietly. His voice carried that calm command of a man used to being obeyed. But beneath it was warmth, unexpected even to himself. "You're safe. You've been out almost a full day." Her gaze darted toward the window. "Where am I?" "My cabin, Pine Hill," he replied. "Storm's bad. No one's getting in or out for a while." She nodded faintly. Then her eyes fell on Echo. The dog raised his head, but didn't move closer, as if reading her fear. "He won't hurt you," Logan assured. "He's more disciplined than most people I know." Maya let out a small breath that was almost a laugh. Then she looked toward the basket where her baby slept and whispered, "Noah." Logan followed her gaze. "He's strong, hungry though. I found a can of formula from last winter. Still good. I fed him a little." Tears welled in her eyes. "You fed him?" He shrugged. "Didn't seem right to let him starve while you were fighting to stay alive." Silence hung between them. Only the fire crackled. Later, When she had enough strength to drink warm tea, Logan asked softly, "What happened to you out there?" For a long time, Maya said nothing. Her hands trembled around the mug. Finally, she whispered, "Have you heard of Shelter of Hope?" Logan frowned. "Sounds like a charity." "It's not." Her voice tightened. "They find women like me, homeless, desperate, with babies. They promise food, protection, a new start. But when you get there, the doors lock from the outside." Logan's fingers stilled. He had heard that tone before. Victims recounting something too ugly to name. "They make us work, cleaning, sorting packages, doing whatever they want. If you disobey, they punish you or send you away. Some women never came back." Her eyes glistened with firelight. "I ran after a guard fell asleep. I took Noah and left everything else behind." Echo shifted, ears flattening as if he too understood. Logan leaned back, jaw tight. The military discipline in him wanted to stay detached, but something hot twisted in his chest. Anger, pity, maybe both. "You went to the police?" "They said there was no record. The place doesn't exist on paper. They called me unstable." She gave a bitter smile. "A girl who'd lost her mind after childbirth." Logan stared at the fire. The crackling reminded him of gunfire in desert nights, times when he had promised himself he'd protect anyone who couldn't fight back. And now this woman sat here trembling, forgotten by the system he once served. "You don't have to be afraid here," he said at last. "No one's taking your boy. Not while I'm around." Her gaze flickered toward him, cautious, searching. "Why are you helping us?" He hesitated. "Because someone should have helped my wife, too." Maya's brow furrowed, but he didn't explain. He stood, stirred the fire, and added more logs. Outside the wind screamed, but inside the cabin, warmth grew. Hours passed. Logan prepared a small bowl of oatmeal, mashed it, and fed Noah with a spoon. The baby gurgled, his tiny hand reaching toward the dog's fur. Echo licked his fingers, tail thumping once on the floor. Maya smiled faintly for the first time. "He likes your dog." "Most people do," Logan replied, though his eyes softened. When night came again, the storm worsened. Logan checked the generator. Dead. He lit an oil lamp. Shadows danced on the walls. Maya nursed Noah by the fire, humming a tune so faint it almost disappeared beneath the wind. Logan sat by the window, rifle across his knees out of habit, listening to the storm. For a fleeting second, he imagined Sarah there, her voice, her laughter, and felt the ache of something he thought he'd buried. He turned back toward the fire. Maya's face glowed warm against the flicker of light. The fear had not vanished from her eyes, but something else had taken its place. Trust. Outside, snow piled higher, sealing them off from the world. Yet inside the cabin, for the first time in years, Logan felt not the silence of loss, but the fragile noise of life returning. Echo sighed, head on his paws, guarding the sleeping mother and child. Logan whispered into the fire as if to Sarah. "Maybe this is how healing begins, one storm at a time." And beyond the window, the blizzard roared on, erasing their tracks from the world, as though fate itself meant for them to disappear together into the night. The storm had softened overnight, leaving the forest glazed in brittle frost. The world outside Logan's cabin glittered like glass beneath a pale morning sun, but the air carried a silence that was too still to trust. Logan poured coffee into a tin cup, steam rising between his scarred fingers. His body ached from the sleepless nights, yet his mind was sharper than ever. He had learned in war that danger rarely announced itself with sound. It crept in through quiet mornings like this one. Maya was by the window, wrapped in a flannel blanket. Her dark hair, now clean and brushed, hung loose over her shoulders. She watched the snow-draped trees, her expression distant but calmer than before. On the couch, Noah slept soundly in a woven basket Logan had fashioned from an old laundry crate and blankets. Echo sat beside him, eyes half closed, but ears alert to every creak of the wood. "You'll be able to leave once the road's clear," Logan said softly. Maya turned, her voice small. "And go where?" He hesitated, sipping his coffee. We'll figure that out when it's safe. The words hadn't finished leaving his mouth when a sharp knock echoed through the cabin door. Both froze. Echo lifted his head, growling low in his throat. Logan's muscles tensed instinctively. Few people came this far up Pine Hill, and none without reason. He moved to the window and parted the curtain just enough to see. A man stood on the porch, bundled in a thick government-issued parka, his gloved hand holding a folder. The reflection of the snow hid most of his face, but the stance, upright, rehearsed, reeked of authority. Logan opened the door halfway. Cold air and the smell of wet leather rushed in. "Can I help you?" The stranger smiled with professional politeness. He was in his 40s, tall, but slightly hunched as if unused to the cold. His cheeks were smooth-shaven, his hair trimmed short, graying at the temples. His badge gleamed on his chest. Child Protective Services. "I'm Mr. Alton," he said in a friendly tone that didn't quite reach his eyes. "We received a report of a missing infant. May I come in?" Logan didn't move. His instincts prickled. "Who filed that report?" "I'm not at liberty to say, sir," Alton replied smoothly. He pulled out a document from the folder and held it up. "Standard welfare check, just routine." Logan took the paper. He scanned it quickly, and the soldier in him saw everything wrong within seconds. The font wasn't the federal typeface used on CPS forms. The seal was blurred, like a photocopy. The phone number listed belonged to no government office he'd ever heard of. And outside, parked near the pines, was a black SUV. No license plates, no radio antenna, no decals. Behind him, Echo's growl deepened. The fur along his back stood like a ridge. "Cute paperwork," Logan said evenly, folding the document. "But you should have double-checked the font before printing. Helvetica, not Arial. Dead giveaway." Alton's smile faltered for the first time. "Sir, this isn't a game. That child could be in danger." Logan cut him off. "He was in danger until I found him." The silence that followed was cold and taut. Outside, a crow cawed somewhere in the distance. Logan took a step forward, his voice lowering to a tone that could freeze water. "You should leave before the storm gets worse." The man studied him, jaw tight. His eyes flicked past Logan toward Maya and the baby. Then with a small stiff nod, he stepped back into the snow. "Very well," he said, his tone turning brittle. "You'll be hearing from my office." The door closed with a solid thud. Logan locked it, bolted it, then went to the window again. Alton walked briskly to his SUV, wiped snow off the windshield, and drove off. Too smoothly for a man from a government agency stuck on a mountain road. Maya's voice trembled. "Who was that?" "Not who he said he was," Logan replied. He placed the fake form on the table, and leaned close to study the logo. Shelter of Hope. A chill rippled through him. He powered on his laptop, booted an old satellite uplink, and typed the URL printed on the document. The site looked legitimate. Pictures of smiling women, mission statements about restoring dignity. But beneath its surface code, his system picked up a signal tag, an embedded IP tracker designed to trace visitors. "They know where we are," he muttered. Maya's hand went to her mouth. "They're coming." "Maybe not yet," he said. "But they will." He reached for the radio on the shelf and adjusted the channel frequency. After a few seconds of static, a voice answered, crisp, low, and familiar. "Pierce, it's been a long time." "Too long," Logan replied. "Amamira, I need a favor." Sergeant Amamira Torres, one of his old teammates, now worked with the FBI's trafficking unit. In his mind, he could still see her. Latina, early 30s, dark eyes sharp as obsidian, hair pulled back in a no-nonsense braid. She'd always been the voice of reason on the team. Calm under pressure, fierce when cornered. "Send me coordinates," Amamira said. "And don't do anything stupid until we get there." "Can't promise that," Logan answered, half smiling despite himself. When the call ended, he packed a small tactical bag, flashlight, ammunition, field camera. Then he turned to Maya. If I'm right, they're not after just you. They're hiding something big. I need proof. You're going out there? She whispered. Just for a few hours. He looked at Echo, who was already standing by the door, tail stiff, eyes sharp. Stay, Logan said automatically. Echo didn't move, his gaze locked with Logan's, steady, defiant, loyal. Maya smiled faintly. He'll find his way back. He always does. Logan sighed, sliding the strap of his rifle over his shoulder. Then we both know the rules. He placed his old Navy knife on the table beside Maya's hand. If anything happens, use this. Don't hesitate. Snowflakes drifted through the cracks of the door as he opened it. The cold hit him like a wall. Lock it behind me, he said, and as he and Echo stepped out into the blinding white, the cabin fell silent again, its warmth holding 3 lives that had no idea how close the storm truly was. The snow had hardened overnight into a crust of ice, each step cracking like broken glass under Logan's boots. The sun was pale and distant, hanging low over the endless forest. He moved through the silence with the practiced stealth of a man who'd learned to make the world itself his camouflage. Beside him, Echo trotted through the drifts, his black and tan coat dusted with frost, breath steaming like smoke. Every few steps, the dog stopped, nose to the ground, tail stiff. Logan trusted that posture more than any satellite tracker. Easy, boy, he murmured. Lead the way. The GPS receiver in Logan's hand pulsed with a faint green light, the signal pointing deeper into the woods. According to Amamira's brief message, there were rumors of an abandoned ranger station used during wildfire seasons. Now it might be the missing link between Shelter of Hope's public facade and whatever operation hid behind it. He could still hear her voice from their last call. Calm, clipped, efficient. Don't wait for backup, Logan. Just observe, record, and get out, he'd said. Copy that. Knowing full well he would never just observe if someone was still trapped inside. By the time they reached the ranger station, the sun was already sliding behind the ridge. The building stood crooked and half buried in snow, its roof sagging under the weight of ice. The old forestry emblem was barely visible on the wooden door. But what caught Logan's eye was the faint tire track frozen into the ground, fresh, less than a day old. He knelt beside it, brushing the snow with gloved fingers. Someone's been here, he muttered. Echo's ears flicked forward, low growl rumbling from his chest. The dog's instincts were never wrong. Logan drew his pistol, a suppressed Sig Sauer P226, the same model he'd carried overseas. The weapon fit his hand like memory. They approached the door. The lock had been broken. Inside, the air smelled of metal and disinfectant, not decay, cleaning agents. Logan's gut tightened. He pushed the door open. The station was gutted and transformed. Metal shipping containers lined the walls stacked with boxes marked as medical supplies. He pried one open. Inside were ID cards, passports, family photos, women, children, faces of people who'd simply vanished. Some pictures were recent, printed on glossy paper, names scribbled on the back. Logan's breath hitched. Jesus! He began filming with his body cam, narrating in a low voice for the FBI record. Evidence confirms trafficking activity. Multiple victims cross-state operation. This isn't local, Amira. It's national. Echo moved ahead, sniffing one of the containers. His paw scraped at the ground, revealing a small vent pipe half buried in snow. Logan followed the dog's lead, crouched, and listened. A hum, low and mechanical, vibrated from below, a generator. That meant someone was still using this place. He raised his head sharply. The distant crunch of tires echoed through the forest. Within seconds, the faint growl of an engine grew louder. Logan ducked behind the containers, peeking through a crack in the broken wall. A black SUV rolled into view, headlights off. 2 men got out, their movements brisk, professional. Both wore winter camo parkas and sidearms. One was tall and wiry, his beard peppered with gray. The other heavy-set, scar running across his chin. Echo crouched beside Logan, body taut, muscles trembling with restrained energy. The dog's eyes followed every step the men took. 2 tangos, Logan whispered. Wait for my mark. The taller man opened the door, flashlight sweeping across the room. You sure the tracker pinged here? Positive, the other replied. The boss said the seal was sniffing around. If he found this place. He never finished the sentence. Echo lunged from the shadows, a blur of fur and teeth. His snarl broke the silence like thunder. The heavy-set man went down hard, cursing as the dog tore at his arm. The second man swung his flashlight, but Logan was already moving, rolling low, pistol raised. One controlled breath, one squeeze. A muffled shot. The beam fell, clattering to the floor. The fight ended in seconds. Echo released the downed man at Logan's command, retreating to his side. Blood speckled the snow. Logan checked the pulse of the one still breathing. Alive, but out cold. You picked the wrong mountain, friend. He searched their pockets, found no IDs, only prepaid burner phones and a key fob with the same Shelter of Hope logo embossed on its side. He grabbed his phone, sent the footage to Amamira through a secured channel and attached coordinates. Data package sent. Evidence confirmed. He muttered into the recorder. A sharp beep interrupted the transmission. Static burst from his radio, the one he'd left with Maya. Through the noise came her voice, faint and trembling. Logan, someone's outside. 2 cars. I think they found us. His stomach dropped. Maya, listen to me. Lock the door. Stay quiet. I'm coming back. The line went dead. Outside, the forest had gone eerily still again. The SUV's engine was still running, exhaust steaming in the cold. Logan holstered his weapon, slung his rifle over his shoulder, and whistled softly. Echo came to heel immediately, limping slightly, but eager. He crouched, pressed a gloved hand to the dog's neck. Good work, soldier. Now we move. Without another glance at the carnage inside, Logan slipped into the trees. The path back to Pine Hill was long, but the thought of Maya clutching Noah, alone and terrified, cut through the cold like fire. As he disappeared into the woods, the snow began to fall again, erasing his footprints. Behind them, the abandoned station stood silent, its frozen metal containers gleaming in the moonlight, each one holding stories no one was supposed to find. The wind screamed through the pines like a living creature, battering the walls of the small cabin on Pine Hill. Snow swirled in ghostly sheets across the windows, and the world outside vanished in white. Inside, Logan moved quickly, methodically, his body running on instinct honed through years of combat. He had already led Maya and Noah down into the narrow storm shelter beneath the floorboards, a low-ceiling space once used to store supplies. It smelled faintly of cedar and gun oil. Stay quiet, he told her. No matter what you hear, don't come up until I do. Maya clutched Noah to her chest. The baby whimpered, the sound soft but sharp as a needle in the silence, her eyes, hazel and fearful, locked onto Logan's. Be careful, she whispered. Logan nodded once. He looked older in the flicker of the firelight, his face hard-edged but calm. The kind of calm that comes from knowing what's coming. I've been through worse, he said, though his voice betrayed the lie. Echo waited at the top of the stairs, muscles tense, tail low, his amber eyes glimmered in the half-light. The air in the cabin thickened. Danger had a scent, and both man and dog could smell it. Then came the sound. An engine grinding up the icy hill. Tires crunched to a halt. Doors slammed. The faint metallic clicks of guns being readied carried through the storm. Logan doused every lamp, leaving only the dim heartbeat of the fireplace. Shadows crawled across the walls like smoke. He crouched behind the kitchen counter, rifle in hand, breath slow and controlled. Through the window, faint beams of flashlights cut through the snow. Figures moved. 4, maybe 5 men bundled in dark parkas. Their movements were quick, silent, trained. This wasn't random violence. It was a hit. The door burst open with a splintering crack. Wind roared in, scattering snow and ash. A voice called out, rough, confident. You can't hide her forever, soldier. Logan's jaw tightened. The voice belonged to Bradley Alton, the man who had posed as the CPS officer days earlier. Now his parka hood was down, revealing a hard, angular face. Mid-40s, eyes pale and calculating, hair slicked back from the snow. His smirk was the kind that had never met conscience. Echo growled low in the darkness, a sound that made the intruders pause. Flashlights swept the cabin, bouncing off the reflective eyes of the German shepherd crouched in the corner. "What the?" one of them began. Before he could finish, Echo lunged. His weight hit the man square in the chest, dragging him to the floor. Chaos erupted. Gunfire, splintering wood, shouts swallowed by the storm. Logan moved through the smoke like a shadow. He fired once, twice, controlled, precise. The air filled with the acrid scent of gunpowder. A bullet grazed his shoulder. Pain flared hot, but he barely felt it. Training took over. One man tried to circle toward the basement door, but Logan caught his silhouette and fired. The muzzle flash, lighting his determined face for an instant. He grabbed a fallen attacker's weapon and kicked the door shut, barring it with a chair. A grenade rolled across the floor, small metallic. Logan barely had time to react. He dove behind the counter, dragging Echo down with him. The explosion wasn't lethal, more concussive than destructive, but the blast blew a hole in the side wall, sending shards of wood and snow everywhere. Through the smoke, Logan heard a cry from below, Maya's voice. The blast must have cracked the shelter wall. He scrambled toward the sound. Above him, the roof groaned under the force of the wind. One beam snapped, falling toward the open hatch where the baby's cradle had been placed earlier. Echo moved first. With a blur of motion, the dog threw himself forward, pushing the beam aside. The heavy timber crashed across his flank, but Noah remained untouched, crying, but alive. "Echo!" Logan shouted. He knelt beside the dog, one arm bracing the beam, the other gripping his rifle. Echo's chest heaved, but his eyes stayed locked on the last intruder standing, Bradley Alton himself. Alton raised his pistol. "You should have stayed out of this, Pierce." Before he could fire, a blinding blue light flooded the cabin. Police strobes cutting through the storm. A voice outside thundered through a megaphone. "FBI, drop your weapons!" Alton spun, but too late. Amamira Torres burst through the broken doorway, clad in tactical winter gear, her dark braids slicked with ice. Behind her, two agents swept in with rifles raised. Amamira's gaze found Logan immediately. "You always pick the scenic route to hell," she muttered, stepping over a fallen man. Logan gave a faint smile despite the blood on his arm. "You took your time." Within minutes, the attackers were disarmed, cuffed, and dragged into the storm. Amamira knelt beside Echo, checking his wound with gloved hands. "He'll make it," she said softly. Maya emerged from the shelter, clutching Noah, tears streaking her soot-covered face. She knelt beside Echo, whispering, "Good boy. Good brave boy." The dog's tail thumped weakly against the floor. Outside, dawn broke. Faint gold over a land of snow and ruin. The nightmare was over. 1 year later, the cabin on Pine Hill stood rebuilt. Its porch light glowed warm against the snow, and above the door hung a small wooden sign carved with a paw print and 3 words, Echo House. Shelter of hope restored. Inside, laughter filled the air. Maya, now stronger, her hair tied neatly back, guided a group of women through a small workshop, teaching them crafts, helping them rebuild their own lives. Amamira, ever the steady force, handled paperwork and legal aid, her crisp professionalism softened by genuine affection for the place. At the far end of the hall, Logan trained a few children in basic self-defense. His arm still carried a scar from that night, but his smile came easier now. On his wrist, a small bracelet made of red thread, Maya's gift, caught the light as he worked. That evening, snow began to fall again. Logan stepped outside, heart calm, hands trembling slightly, not from fear this time, but from something far gentler. Maya joined him, cheeks flushed, baby Noah asleep in her arms. He knelt in the snow, producing a small box from his coat pocket. "I've fought for a lot of things in my life," he said quietly. But never for something I actually wanted until now. Maya's eyes widened, glistening. Logan! He smiled. Marry me, Maya Quinn! Tears welled, but her answer was steady. Inside the window, Echo, now fully recovered, lay beside Noah's cradle, a red scarf tied around his neck. The firelight flickered on the walls, painting them in gold. Outside the snow fell thicker, soft and silent. The old soldier, the woman who had fled the dark, and the child who had once been lost, together with a loyal dog, had finally found what every battle had been for: peace. When the snow finally stopped falling over Pine Hill, the world seemed to breathe again. What began as a night of fear became a story of faith. Proof that even in our darkest winters, God still sends light. Sometimes that light comes not as thunder or fire from heaven, but in the quiet courage of a soldier who refuses to turn away, in the loyalty of a dog who risks everything for a child, and in the fragile hope of a woman who dares to trust again. Every rescue, every act of compassion is a small miracle, one we are called to share. So as you finish this story, take a moment to remember the people around you who may still be lost in their own storms. Offer them warmth, a kind word, a prayer. That's how faith lives on through ordinary hands doing extraordinary things. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to believe that good still exists. Leave a comment, tell us where you're watching from, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss these true tales of courage and grace. And tonight, as the snow falls beyond your window, may the same God who watched over Logan, Maya, Noah, and Echo watch over you, too. May His love be your shelter. May His light find you wherever you are.